Hey everyone, so today we're going to discuss 5 books that are essential for every parent or teacher to read. This is such an important topic for teachers and for parents, people who interact with kids every single day, to be able to understand how kids learn, how kids think, how to interact with kids, because they are our future. And the more we understand and put ourselves in those kids' shoes, the better we are going to become at parenting and at teaching. So this video is aimed at parents and teachers. I know there's a ton of you out there. So we'll discuss those 5 books and stay until the end of the video because I got a couple of honorable mentions. They didn't quite make it on the list, but I still feel that they deserve a bit of a spot in this video. So let's get straight into it. All right, so let's save the best for first. It's this book right here, the book you wish your parents had read, and your children will be glad that you did. So this is one of my all-time favorite parenting books, because it's not one of those step-by-step guides where it says, oh, you should do this if your kids are acting out. Oh, you should do this and then this and then this. No, it's more on the emotional side. It's emotional intelligence, connection, because that's really what parenting is, and teaching is connecting with the kids on an emotional level. And then also another aspect that I really loved about this one is the fact that it helps you to realize that maybe some of the things that your parents did to you when you were a kid affected you in a certain way, and that's the reason why you are parenting the kids the way that you're parenting them. And so it helps you to deeply reflect on your life. It's more a book about the parent than it is about the kid. Because imagine if we don't have ourselves sorted out, if we don't know how to control our emotions, then surely we cannot teach a child how to control their emotions. It's kind of straightforward if you think about it, but a lot of people don't really realize this. So this book really delves deeply into the psychological aspect of parenting and how we can reflect upon ourselves. That way we can become better people. Therefore, our children will become better people because they have better role models, people that can actually help them to be better people. So this is my number one. All right, and the rest of these books are not necessarily in order of like favorites. So here's the second one, The Self-Driven Child, The Science and Sense of Giving Your Kids More Control Over Their Lives by William Stixrud, PhD, and Ned Johnson. This one's a great book that really helps you with lots of suggestions, really good for teachers too. This is not just strictly a parenting book, good for both. So it gives you some good steps and strategies to really help drive your kids' sense of control over their own lives. It helps them become more independent. It's like, yeah, the parent or the teacher is there as a guide to help children make choices that are beneficial in their life. And it gets into the science of the brain as well, explaining like, hey, the sense of self-control is not fully developed in kids. And so therefore we do need to be aware of how much control we give kids. Otherwise, if they have free reign, then they're probably going to go out and get themselves hurt. And then also, of course, the book talks about, well, yeah, kids make mistakes. Use those opportunities to help them to learn from those mistakes. So yeah, it's got a great amount of tips in here. It's not too thin, not too thick. So it's packed full of great information, and it's backed up by research. It's got a great bibliography in the back, full of great sources to follow up on. So check this one out. All right, and third book here is more of a typical parenting book. What I mean by typical is it's got a lot of generalities in it, and it's more like, hey, if you do it like this, then surely you will be successful at parenting or teaching kids, which is not really the case because not every single kid is the same. So yeah, the title of this one is Einstein Never Used Flashcards. Yes, it seems like a cheesy title, and really when you get into the book, it doesn't necessarily talk about Einstein or anything. So yeah, it's kind of clickbait, but it's got a lot of great information in it. And the subtitle is How Our Children Really Learn and Why They Need to Play More and Memorize Less. It's by Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, PhD, and Roberta Michnik Golinkoff, PhD. So it's done by a couple of PhD people, which is also another good sign, not always meaning that it's going to be a great book, but yeah, so it talks a lot about how kids need to play. That's quite obvious. It talks a lot about memorization and that, sticking a bunch of flashcards in front of a kid and just letting them memorize, yeah, that may be beneficial, but it talks about the downsides of that as well. So it's more so about play and letting kids explore their environment through natural ways rather than creating an environment where you're drilling and drilling and drilling and not letting the kid play or experiment with their learning materials. I think just that message itself is beneficial for both parents and teachers. So if your kid is not memorizing something right away, it's not the end of the world. There will be time for them to learn, and we need to use several different strategies to help them to learn, to help them to grow, rather than just flashcards, memorization, and no play at all. That would never be a good thing. All right, and the fourth book here is Parent Like It Matters: How to Raise Joyful, Change-Making Girls by Janice Johnson Diaz, PhD. Now, I really like this one. Obviously, it relates more to girls than it would be for boys, but I think any parent would benefit from reading this book because it's kind of like a self-help book for parents. Now, I know that some of you may not like self-help books because they tend to be too general, but this one does get very specific, and it gives you a lot of great tips and strategies to build confidence in your girls, confidence in themselves to be change-making. And it really develops the parent as well. There's just a whole lot of personal experiences thrown into the book. It's a little bit less scientifically researched or peer-reviewed journal, or there are still some citations within the book. But yeah, I just have to put this on my list because when I read it, it really made an impact on the way that I view parenting a girl. And it does talk a lot about race as well, so this may not be relevant for some people, but I feel like it's good knowledge to have, especially as a teacher maybe. Like that aspect could be applied, and it depends on where you're teaching. Like if you're teaching in the US, or like me, I'm teaching in Indonesia, so it's not as relevant for me. And that's the thing with certain books, is you may not find some parts of the book to be that relevant, and that's okay. So overall, it's a very well-written book, very engaging and inspiring, so I recommend people to pick it up. Stanislas Dehaene is like one of my superheroes. He wrote this book, How We Learn, The New Science of Education and the Brain. So this is definitely more towards the education side, but parents can definitely learn from this because if you read this book, you will learn how children and also adults learn. And a lot of the times, like, why I hear people saying, why can't my kid read very well, or something like that. And it's like, when you read this book, you can totally understand actually how difficult it can be for some people to learn to read and to learn to do mathematics or learn to do like other things that maybe you would think, like, why can't they just pick it up? But sometimes we totally forget what it was like to learn. If I remember back to my elementary years, I remember that at times I struggled, but I don't really remember the process of like, when did I actually learn how to read and when did I actually learn how to learn? So this book delves into the science of learning, and it is one of my favorite books of all time for like a book on learning, and it gives you actionable advice for teachers and parents to help kids learn better. It helps teachers to be able to teach better because they understand the methods and the strategies to implement in the classroom so that kids can pick up what they're trying to teach them. So I highly recommend reading this. It will also help you to become a better reader. That's another positive. Better reader, better learner, and be able to put that information into your long-term memory because there's strategies for that, how to reuse the information, how to categorize it, and then implement it. So this is definitely a great book. You have to check this one out. All right, so that's it for the 5 books, but wait, we've got the bonus ones, the honorable mentions. So they're not technically on this list, but I want to just talk about them briefly. So the first one here is Grandpa's Fortune Fables, Fun Stories to Teach Kids About Money by Will Rainey. Now this one is great because it's a story. I would say 8, 9, 10-year-olds could probably read this by themselves, and it teaches them different ways to save and invest money. It helps kids to become a whole lot smarter with the way that they use their money and then the way that they invest it and let it grow. So this story is luar biasa. It's amazing. For those of you that speak Indonesian, luar biasa. Amazing. So you should check this one out. Okay. And the last one here is The 1 Minute Father by Spencer Johnson, MD. So The 1 Minute Father is very thin, 100 pages. and it just gives you a bunch of strategies for basically disciplining your kid. The quote on here says, Dr. Spencer Johnson shows us how to discipline our children with strength and love, so we each feel like winners. So it's like a gentle way of disciplining. That way you're not like upsetting your child, but you're still teaching them how to be disciplined. So great book. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you found a book on this list for those parents and teachers that are watching. If you have any other questions, you can go and shoot them my way. Any other book recommendations that you want, or maybe you want to tell me a book that I should read and talk about on my channel in future videos. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.